So in that previous example of the daycare center in that old loft building, said, well, they had already leased the building, but it didn't meet the zoning code. What are we going to do? Well, what we had to do was go and do a negotiation with the zoning department and explain what we were trying to do, how we thought that we could meet the spirit of the zoning code, even if we couldn't meet the letter of the zoning code, and that the systems that we would sort of add in to make it better and okay, and they eventually agreed with us. So we had to get a change. We had to get them to allow us to do the work in a way where we weren't meeting that zoning code. So how do you do that? Well, there's a couple different levels of being able to do that. One of the ways is the idea of the administrative adjustment. So an administrative adjustment is the idea that there are certain kinds of changes, low-level, simple changes. Maybe you have an existing building and the setback is at 1'6", but it's supposed to be at 2 feet, and they're doing a little bit of an addition onto the end, and you're trying to line it up with the building instead of setting it, a small kind of a few inches here or there. Well, that kind of thing, it's not expected that you would have to go to like the city council and have a full-on presentation for something like that. That the professionals in the zoning department are sort of there to sort of handle those kinds of issues, and so they can make that kind of decision. So that's an administrative adjustment. It's some fairly simple thing. Now, different terminology will be used in different parts of the country, but most places will have similar terminology to this, and so I think the exam will kind of use these types of terms. But it could be a little bit different in the way they talk about it. But just understand that there is that basic, simple change that's done by the professionals right there in, when you're meeting with them. And then there's variance, and a variance, zoning change that's a variance, is a step up, right? That's where you're actually asking for a new interpretation or a change, maybe a change in district or something along those lines. So variance is actually a much bigger deal, takes more levels of acquiescence by the zoning. You may have to go, in order to get a variance, you may have to talk to a board of appeals or something like that. There's a number of steps that you would have to do. That would be public information. People would be able to voice their opinion about it. An amendment would be the next level up. An amendment is actually a change, so it's just like what it sounds like. You're amending the zoning code, so you're actually changing the zoning code. This is where it's not just that we're saying, all right, we're going to let you do what's permitted in a different permit, different district into this location. We're actually saying we're going to change the map. We're going to literally amend the zoning code. So clearly, if you're amending the zoning code is a law. You have to have all the city council involved. So even if it's for one project, there's a lot of people who are voting on that, and it becomes a much bigger deal. Now, what I'm talking about is mostly these kind of fairly large-scale urban settings. When you get into more rural and even some smaller-scale suburban settings, all of this might get sort of pushed together into a few simpler type of, a variance and amendment are probably pretty similar, that kind of thing. But you get the idea that there's very simple, very straightforward ones that the expectation is that the professionals in the department can handle it. Then there's ones that sort of, it's a bigger deal, you have to go through more layers. And then there's one where we're actually changing the code, and that means it's an amendment, and it's just like adopting the code in the first place. Everybody has to vote on it. So presumably one of those is the way that you would get through a change. If you are going through these, this is essentially a legal process, and so the architect would be involved, but often there would be other players involved as well. There'd be zoning lawyers and various other people who would be bringing a very specific set of legal knowledge about specific zoning issues and the sort of legal aspects of those, because it is a very technical process.